Khabib is one of the best to make guys give up. Khabib he's the guy. He will talk to you, do anything you can just to break you mentally. And he does it. You see it. People turn their back and they get choked out.
You're listening to Brian J. Roberts. It's really good to talk to you. Honestly, I've just, personally been a big fan of just you, the UFC, especially just how you carry yourself outside of fighting. That was such a big reason why I wanted to speak with you, because I feel like there's something to be said for people. I respect where other fighters come from, where they have this character, and I get that. But I think there's also something to be said for people who have real character, and that's who they are. And I feel like you just personify that more so than a lot of other fighters.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, man. You got, of course, if I started talking trash now, everybody would just be like, stop, Steven. You know what? You just shut up. We know that's not you, and you got a lot of guys who kind of, pick that up kind of halfway through their career, and that it's not real,
Mm-hmm.
Don't want to point any names or point at anybody, but I think you know who I'm talking about. You just know it's not real.
Yeah.
And for me, I got 600 kids back home that watch every move that I make. And I just want to set a good example for them, and that's what I consider my real job, is teaching karate classes. So I love it, man.
Yeah. So how long have you been doing that for? And 600 kids, is it?
Well, we got about 750 students, and most of them are kids. Yeah, we have a huge kids program. And I've been teaching since I was help teaching since I was about 12 years old. So, my family runs a martial arts school in Simpsonville, South Carolina, upstate karate. And we've been open for 37 years. And we've got grandkids of grandparents that took from us. So 3 generations of martial artists have been through here. It's a small town, and of course it's growing like crazy, but this is what I consider my job. I love it.
So given that, when you're doing media or you're out in the octagon, I imagine you carry that with you, knowing that, this isn't just about me. This is a lot deeper than me. This is my family. This is the school back home. These are the kids that, depending on how the fight goes, when I get back, they're going to be honest with me and be like, hey, you put your hands down or whatever.
Oh, 100%, man. Yeah, they keep me accountable for sure. Why don't you keep your hands? If you tell us to keep your hands up all the time. Or kids, they'll be like, man, I saw you got knocked out in your fight this past week. I'm like, shut up, kid. Of course I don't say that, but yeah, man, I do. I carry that with me everywhere I go. I mean, even, just going to the mall, going to a restaurant, there's always somebody that I know. And, I got to make sure I set a good example for them every step of the way. And not just, and make sure you're practicing what you're preaching. And people figure you out real quick outside of what you do. And you got to be careful that, you really, for me, I really don't, I am who I am. What you see out in the octagon and how you see me, that's just me. And I think the martial arts has helped me become that person. Not just a good martial artist, but just a good man as well. And that's kind of what I want to, give back to them. The martial arts is not about just kicking and punching people. And that's what most people see as something, as just a violent sport, which it's not. It's about, showing modesty, courtesy, integrity, self-control, perseverance, showing that indomitable spirit everywhere you go. And, people do martial arts for different reasons. If it's maybe lose a bit of weight, maybe they have self-confidence issues, they're being bullied. And just seeing the changes after a week of coming to martial arts is just, man, it puts a grin on my face, man. And we got kids that have been training here since they were 3 years old, and now they're mid-20s. Just to know that I've had something to do, a positive influence in their life it's awesome. It's the coolest thing.
What would you say are some of the biggest barriers to that feeling that when you're in the right environment with the right school and the right instructors, that good feeling you feel? What do you think are some of the barriers to that, to getting people in the door and also to actually having a real positive learning experience once they're there.
Well, of course, the UFC has kind of helped with that a little bit. You know, people see me, and I'm kind of you know, a hometown celebrity. I don't consider myself a celebrity at all, but you know, which is why I love my hometown. You know, I just walk down the road, people just, oh, it's just Steven. What's up, man? You know, I go to Atlanta or Charlotte or New York. It's crazy. It's like people swarm me. You know, of course, I don't mind that either. But you know, coming from a small town, everybody knows who you are and knows you. And I think we've been in Simpsonville for such a long time that everybody knows where we're located, where we are. We just moved into a 20,000 square foot facility, brand new facility. We've been in downtown Simpsonville, man, since '86, I think, in the same shopping center. So I grew up there. So it was kind of sad to see it leave, but a lot of it's done by word of mouth. You know, people are excited when they step in these doors. People are excited, like, you know, the whole pandemic that had, you know, Corona. People were very upset that we had to close shop and do everything online. We had to be innovative, but you know, when we started opening back up, you just saw everybody smile. Just kind of, you know, everybody came in with a smile, was excited to get in and get some work in, and we keep everybody accountable too. You know, if they don't show up for a few days, and you know, we're on the phone, we're calling, say, hey man, where you been? We're writing cards. You know, my dad's always taught me something, and it really kind of sunk in, and about running a business. People really don't care how much you know. They only want to know how much you care. And I think when people are in it for the money, which a lot of dojos out there have kind of made karate look bad over the years, especially in the '80s and early '90s when the Karate Kids and stuff were coming out. It helped, but it also, you had these McDojos opening up left and right, putting out you know, crappy students, and it kind of made us look bad. Pretty much karate all around, which is why you heard that in, you know, in the earlier UFCs, people talking about how karate wouldn't work, you know. But it's cool to know that there are some good quality martial arts schools out there, and when you generally care about your students, I think that's when, you know, the people feel that they understand that, they know that, and that's when, you know, you start seeing your business grow.
It sounds like this is an innate part of just really wholesome, caring family businesses. And I'm just curious to see, like, what other stuff have you learned from your family just over the years?
Oh man, my, you know, I keep a small circle to begin with. Um, you know, and they keep you accountable, they keep you humble as well. But you see these guys like at the top of the game just walking around with this entourage with people who generally don't care about them, who are yes men, you know. Um, and you kind of see people's careers kind of drop. You see their quality in their martial arts drop. You see their focus drop. And for me, I'm kind of an observant person, so I kind of I watch people, you know, people at the highest level. I trained with people at the highest level, and I learned what made them successful, like GSP, Chris Weidman, Anderson Silva, you know, Leo Tamachida. I've trained with all these guys, Rashad Evans, Nate Marquardt, and they keep a small circle, you know, and we're a very tight knit family. I've got two brothers and two sisters, got 13 nieces and nephews. We all started at the age of 3. We started martial arts at 3. No say so. It was mandatory in our household. Once you turn 18, when you feel like you can make your own decisions, then you can make your own decisions from there. But as long as you're living in the house, you're training. Because my dad understood what the martial art has done for him, what it will do for you as a person. And man, it develops a humble personality for sure. You know, because you can get humbled real quick. Obviously, it teaches the respect, but you know, you're put in uncomfortable situations on a regular basis. And some of my best fights are the ones that I've lost. When I fought Matt Brown, when I fought Tyron Woodley, when I was in that deep guillotine, I got knocked down twice, didn't know where I was, but I learned a lot from those situations. I learned that, you know, when I am put in those uncomfortable situations, I'm able to fight my way out. I didn't give up. And this is where you learn it in the gym. I'm putting uncomfortable situations on a regular basis. And that's how my family is, you know. My dad is a hardcore coach, but we know how to separate it from dad. And when you're in the gym, he's Mr. T. He's coach. We know how to separate that. And you see a lot of guys at the top of the level, Floyd Mayweather, Roy Jones Jr., those father-son duos that just didn't cut it. I mean, look at Khabib, and you see the respect that in his eyes for his father. When his father says something, he listens. Same thing here, and having a tight-knit family, it keeps you humble. And, not a whole lot of people can say they do this with their family, or they're that tight with their family. I've traveled the world with my brothers, my sisters, my dad, who said they can do that, And my dad's always told me, man, I won't be around for long. So, get as much time with your pops as possible. He didn't have that option with his dad, so I try and learn from his mistakes.
And then for you, are you going to what do you think about the martial arts until you're 18 rule? In hindsight, like clearly that's worked wonders for you. Do you agree with that? Looking
Oh, I
back on
love
it,
it.
I
I think it's great. When you're that young, I see it every day. I see parents come in, not being parents, trying to be their kid's best friend, and that's not being a good parent. I'm sorry, but your kids, they don't know what's good for them. They don't. Only you do. And they may not understand it, they may not like it, but I thank my dad every day for keeping me in it. I hated karate. I did not. I was here. I lived here at the gym. I was here every day. I remember falling asleep on the mats, just running around the karate school, getting into trouble by him because I lived here. I was here all the time, and I didn't like going it. But once I understood that I had no say so, and there's no point in arguing, just go out there and do it. I stopped fussing. So I think it's amazing. I think it's good. I hated it at the time, but I thank my dad every day. And to the parents out there who maybe new parents or having trouble with that, like I said, don't be your kid's friend. I mean, once your kids are old enough, when that is the time to be your youngin's friend. When I moved out, my dad didn't start becoming my friend until I was, like I said, 17, 18, 19 years old. And even then, I mean, even to the day, he's still my parent. He still gives me advice. Of course, I want to say, man, I'm 37, Dad. I'm a grown ass man. Don't be. He's like, listen, man, you'll always be my boy, and I won't always love you. So, you're gonna be hearing it from me as long as I'm here. So I think it's great. If you're young and martial arts is perfect for everybody. Find a good gym, put your kids in it because they're gonna learn things there that they won't learn in other sports. So make him do it.
And what advice would you give to someone who's brand new, who's just starting? Maybe they're a little intimidated. What do you think is the best way forward? Or maybe they're unsure, like, which martial art should I pursue? Should I go this route, that route?
I have this question asked to me pretty much on a regular basis, a daily basis through social media. And of course I try and get back with them as soon as I can. You can't get to everybody, but I would say do your shopping, go around, your hometown, wherever. We got people that drive 2 hours one way to come train here. Yeah. And they're here twice a week. So find a gym that you feel comfortable with, that you really feel the instructors care about you. I know a lot of guys who find schools. We're a school. There's a difference between a school and a gym. I like to think of it. We're a learning where people come to learn. You go to gyms, people wear what they want to wear. They talk like they want to talk. They listen to whatever they want to listen to, and they're all about themselves. I've been to so many MMA gyms where there's so much ego, and MMA is it's a selfish sport. It really is. People only care about themselves. You step out on the mat, people want to test you, try and rip your head off, and it doesn't make it fun. Find a school where you're going to learn something, and coaches aren't going to put you out there after 3 months of training to get your behind kicked in the octagon or the cage. So find somewhere where you feel comfortable. Go with a friend so you're not feeling alone. But the hardest thing, the absolute hardest thing to do is just stepping on the mat for the first time. That's it. Once you're out there, you see the benefits, right? You'll see the mindset that you need that your instructor is going to require you to have. And a lot of times it's going to be tough, right? But that's where you learn that indomitable spirit, that perseverance, but that should be gradual, right? People go through a conditioning process when it comes to martial arts. My kids go through it. We have kids that start at 3 years old. We have a little Dragons program, 3 and 4 year old, where they're learning the balance, the concentration skills. They're learning some martial arts skills, but it's mostly about developing, coordination and things like that. Kids aren't getting that. Kids aren't going outside and playing anymore, which is understandable. So it's a different world out there. But when I was in the martial arts, 95% of the kids in my class were athletes. We were outside playing, climbing trees, and that's where you develop that. That's where you learn that. Now it's the other way around. You got most kids coming in, their eyes bloodshot. They've been playing video games for 8 hours straight. In that maybe less than 5% are athletes. So you got to kind of go about it a different way, but everybody goes through a conditioning process. If it's that accidental, falling down, tripping up, or the accidental side kick to the body, maybe hit you a little too hard, you kind of go through that. And I'm there. Even the kids, I show them some love, but it's not oh, let me baby you kind of love, which sometimes I have to tell my parents to back off a little bit. This is my mat. Let me handle it. Parents want to do that. Yeah. But they learn that when they're okay, they're fine. Right. They go out there and they continue. They don't need that, oh, come here, let me hug you, all that stuff. No, that's when they start crying even more. But I shut it down real quick. So everybody goes through that conditioning process, and they want to be where I am after 3 days, and that takes years of experience, right? We have some guys, man, just jacked to the T. They got the big Affliction shirt on, or the Walmart version, the Addiction shirt on, or whatever it is. And they want to be an MMA fighter. I've done some training, here and there. But after, 3 days, it's like they don't come back. They don't understand what it takes to get there. So just find that good gym, man. Go with somebody. And the hardest thing is stepping on the mat. Sorry, I ramble, man. I can talk to you for days.
This is great. This is good because I could learn for days, truly. So is there a timeline where, like, I'm sure you get asked this all the time, like, how long till I get X belt or whatever, but I'm just talking more generally. Like, is there a timeline to where you could go from being a green rookie, know nothing, to, oh, okay, like, maybe if I get into a fight, I won't get beat up? Like, what's that timeline, if you could put a number on it? Or maybe there's not, I don't know.
Yeah, you have this misleading about martial arts that after your first class, you just think you're just a master and you can take on anybody. And, after a week or two, you start seeing some skill level, and maybe some of these guys, which is great for our karate. Like, you have MMA, which you're learning everything fairly quick, because there's 3 martial arts that you got to learn. You got to learn your striking, you got to learn your wrestling, and you got to learn your jiu-jitsu. But it's a faster pace, right? It's a faster pace learning curve for the normal person. Like, we got a guy that's been training for a year, and he's 3-0 right now as an amateur. In karate, it's a slower process, which our best fighters come from our karate program, because they're learning the very minute like details of the punches, the kicks. It's a longer learning process, right? And they may not be going out there doing some, takedown defenses or sparring after a month of training. You're still learning the basic stuff. But our best fighters come from our Kempo program, and whichever martial arts that you're studying may be longer, like jiu-jitsu. It's almost like a year before, maybe even longer, before you even get your first rank blue belt, and 3 years on top of that to get your purple belt. And 5 years and to get your brown belt. It's a longer time to get different ranks, not to see improvement, but to get your rank. It's longer. And some people, man, I hate it, but that's when they're in there. That's what they're in there for. It's not about the, it's not about the rank. It's like, people say it's about the journey. It's about getting there. It's about what you learn and the relationships that you get in the gym as well. That's how you grow, and that's how you get better. I tell my MMA guys, listen, man, I watch fighters every day. I know it's your first day, Dave, but when you get home, watch some MMA fights. Watch your favorite fighter. Why did you come in? What inspired you to get here and watch them? Because it's so much. You can learn so much just by watching. I've taken things from Muhammad Ali, which is one of the reasons why I keep my hands down. Right? Muhammad Ali was the best at it. Roy Jones Jr. as well. It helps distribute my weight. People most of the time look at you in the eyes, so I try to keep my hands low so they don't see my hands coming. I watch Chris Weidman with the wrestling. I watch GSP, and there's so much that you can learn, which will help you, develop and grow faster in a lot of things that you learn. But I would give it to be an MMA fighter. Like for us, number one, we have to see the skill level, right? We want to see that you're developing very well. We've got guys who have been training 2 years and never had a fight. It's my goal not to send you out there to get injured, right? And you see a lot of people do that. Yeah, man, I've been training for 3 months and my coach threw me out there and I got the crap beat out of me. I don't even want to step out there anymore. We don't want that to happen. We want you to have the skill level to be able to go out there and defend for yourself. But we got guys have, been training for, like I said, a year and already have 3 fights and they're dominating guys. So it's all on how much work you put in, what's your mindset. Depends on how fast you grow.
Mm. And speaking of mindset and putting the work in, what have you learned watching fighters like GSP or Silva just about how they operate in and outside of the octagon? What has that been like?
Man, I think it is the coolest thing. I like I said, I keep a small circle. And a lot of these guys have learned that, like Chris Weidman, who's family now. My younger brother married his sister, so he's family now. But like I said, it's about growing those relationships. But seeing these guys, the mindset that they have, the mindset of champions. Like, I've trained with GSP, Chris Weidman, Anderson Silva, Lyoto Machida. These guys are all champions, which is one of the reasons why I switched from kickboxing to MMA. I'm sitting there training with these world champion MMA fighters. Let me fight MMA, even though it was later on in my years. But when these guys, the work that they put in the gym, and they give no excuses, they aren't looking for a way out. They're not looking for excuses why not to come in the gym. They could have an injury, but they're still in the gym. There's always something that they can do, to improve. I see, even at the highest level, I've seen guys get a little injury, or maybe they're not feeling, too good, or they're sore. They're looking for a way out, why they can stay at home, and these guys that have made it to the top, they put in the work, man. You can tell it's their life. You can tell they have something different about them with up here and in here. It's like they may have this injury, but they're still in the gym, and not only that, but they're willing to give back. Like GSP, he helped me more than I probably helped him when I would go and train with him. It's unbelievable. Anderson Silva, when I went to train there, he spent an hour and a half after his training session to help everybody else. Wow. So on top of that, these guys are getting better by teaching. They understand the technique. I didn't become the fighter I am until I started teaching martial arts. So that was kind of like, watching that happen was like, what I'm doing is right. What I'm doing the right thing, seeing these champions, teaching and giving back. And then on top of that, their mindset of never giving up, looking for a way out in uncomfortable situations. I've seen guys go out in the octagon at the highest level. And I think the UFC is the highest level, man. I mean, you fight anybody in the UFC, it doesn't matter where they're ranked, they're dangerous. But when they're put in uncomfortable situations, next thing you know, they're turning their back. Next thing you know, they're pretending to defend against the rear naked choke because they're getting punched in the. Khabib is one of the best to make guys give up. Khabib he's the guy. He will talk to you, do anything you can just to break you mentally, and he does it. You see it. People turn their back and they get choked out. But these guys at the highest level that I've seen, they're not looking for ways out. They're looking to escape that position. And you see it, that heart that they have, that indomitable spirit that they have is just unbelievable. And knowing that I've been there and came out, you know, got out of it, like that deep guillotine that Tyron Woodley had me in. Most people were like, I would have tapped, man. Fighters said I would have tapped, and I didn't. That's why that's my favorite fight. One of my favorite fights is where most people would have given up, I didn't. You know, same thing when I fought Matt Brown. I lost the fight, but I didn't give up, man.
Mm-hmm. So how do you think a matchup between like a Khabib and a GSP would play out given the force of their wills? I think that's probably one of the bigger things that underpins both of them that doesn't really get talked about. Like, sure, there's the technical aspects of how they fight, but you know, when we go deeper below the surface, it's just these two unbreakable spirits would
Yeah,
be,
man.
and
Just like
that's
two lions, man. Just two freaking lions. And I that would be the fight of the century, I think, because a lot of people are talking about it. Both of these guys are pretty much the same size. Khabib walks around over 200 pounds, and then he cuts to 155, which is ridiculous. I don't understand that. I'm considered a small welterweight. Like I walk around about 195. Most guys walk around over 200 pounds, and that's at my heaviest. Yeah, I'm a tall welterweight, but I'm not a big guy when it comes to the welterweight division. And GSP too, man, he walks around heavy. I think back in GSP's gritty and when he was at the top of his game days, I think so. His mindset is different now. I think his mindset is not the same as it was when he was in the thick of it. You know, I think that plays a huge part. So I think you take that GSP of 8-9 years ago to the Khabib now. I think that would be an epic fight. I would even. I'm. Oh man, I'm biased, man. I love GSP. I think his wrestling is good enough to be able to fend off against Khabib's wrestling. You know, when I would go there and train, he would train with the Olympic Training Center in Montreal. So that's where we would get our wrestling. And I've got thrown around by women. Yeah, like jacked wrestling women. It's embarrassing, but yeah, I was terrible. These guys are just on another level. And so that's where he trained, you know. He would travel all over the world to train with just these martial arts gurus, man. It was crazy how GSP would go about it. He would bring me in and I would be there for 2 weeks. He would set me up like a block from the gym in a super nice hotel. He was just the best, man, and took care of you. But that would be the fight of the century. But I would have to say GSP.
wow. So he would just scope out the best fighters, trainers, gurus, just go to wherever they are and just
Man, yeah, that's that. He would go like um was it Haja Gracie? Haja
yeah.
Gracie that you know, I saw him compete in Abu Dhabi many times. I was there when he went up against Jacare, and man, GSP would go train with him. He would bring him in, and I had the privilege of seeing Rashad Evans in his prime uh, against Haja Gracie when Haja Gracie was fighting for Strike Force at TriStar, going at it, and I'm like just sitting there, just fanboying, just watching these guys going from the striking to the jiu-jitsu to the wrestling, and it was just unbelievable to see, you know, GSP and those guys, GSP and Nate Marquardt go at it, and knowing that, freak, I'm there with these guys. You know, I'm sparring him next. You know, I'm going out there to fight these guys. So I'm like, and still at the time, I just felt like I didn't deserve to be there. You know, just watching these legends fight. But I met GSP. I was fighting kickboxing. You know, fighting kickboxing. Had a manager in Canada, and I was going around and you know, I'd have kickboxing fights and huge tournament, a huge kickboxing bout. My opponent was undefeated, boxing and kickboxing, and lo and behold, he trained at TriStar. And GSP and Faraz Zahabi was in my opponent's corner. And I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, this guy is going to be legit. You know, I knocked him out in the 5th round. And afterwards, man, GSP and Faraz came up, was like, hey, man, we would love to have you come in and spar and train and help GSP get ready for ready for his fights. And I became a better MMA fighter just to be a better sparring partner for him. I started learning the jiu-jitsu and the wrestling because I put that on the back burner. I was focused on stand-up just to be a better sparring partner. And then, just from learning through him, he was my inspiration to switch. So I give everything to hit that guy right there. To be where I am today, it's because of him.
It's incredible. It sounds like comic book stuff, movie stuff. It doesn't even sound real.
I
Like
know, right? I
seeing
think
some of those
it's so cool.
fights and unbelievable, unbelievable. So what's next for you now? I've heard you say in other interviews you're coming for that belt this year. That's
2021 is it, baby. Of
yeah,
course, I've the past 4 fights have been guys, ranked significantly behind me. Darren Till was ranked number 9. Was it Anthony Pettis was not even ranked in the welterweight division. Vicente Luque, even George Masvidal was ranked, behind me when I fought him, and then Jeff Neal. So, beating these undefeated guys this past year, Vicente Luque and Jeff Neal, UFC's got to push me for those top guys. I know these top guys have got fights coming up, so it's which is perfect because I'm injured and got a torn quad, got a torn ligament in my hand. So hopefully it doesn't last too long, just healing up. But definitely looking to fight one of these guys. I was poking at one of them not too long ago, Leon Edwards, but he wasn't having it on Twitter in the nicest way possible.
of course, respectfully as always.
Yeah, he wasn't having it. But we'll see what happens with him and Hamzat. Hopefully that fight happens. The George Masvidal and Colby Covington fight happens, and of course you got the fight in February against Burns and Usman. So kind of a waiting game at this point, but they got to push me for that top. They got to. I'm people are calling me gatekeeper, and I'm not a gatekeeper. If I'm the gatekeeper, nobody's moving up. Nobody else is moving up.
That's awesome. One of the coolest things is that all these fights and everything else, and I just keep going back to the fact how after you do all this stuff, you go back home and there's all these kids that you're training and everything. That's probably one of the coolest things to me, honestly, out of all this is just, you got it's it's more than just fighting with you. And I think that's just one of the more admirable things.
Well,
What else do you have in mind when you're when you're getting ready to step into that octagon,
there is little glimpses of who's watching, even though there's nobody in the stands. All my friends and family. A lot of MMA guys may not show it, but I think about why I'm stepping out there. Like, it's not just me, Yeah, MMA is a selfish sport, and most people, when they watch it, they're just seeing 2 guys duking it out. But it's more than that for me. Like, it's for the people that sacrifice their bodies to help get me to where I'm at. Sparring partners, coaches who spend their time when they could be spending it with their honey and kids at home, who come in off of a whim and help me train. Guys that travel an hour away, hour and a half, to help me get ready for these fights. And it's crazy, but the kids, they feel it too. It is a stressful time, training camp. Your body's worn out. You're training 2-3 times a day. You're not you're trying to get your weight down on top of that, which is why I love teaching, because it helps keep my mind off of that stress. It's a very stressful situation, but I believe the kids feel that as well. They feel a relief after the fight, win or lose. So when I'm stepping out there, I think about, who I'm doing this for. It's not just me. I fight for the fun of it. I fight for the fun of it, for the honor and the glory. And to be honest with you, I do it for free, because I've basically been doing half of my career for free, fighting kickboxing. And most of my career, I didn't get paid. And just to say that I fought the best guys in the entire world is like something out of an anime, which I'm a big anime fan. So it's just crazy to look back and say I fought the best guys in the world. It's ridiculous. But, you know, I do it for them, man. I try and set an example that, you know, in a win, how to carry yourself, in a loss, how to carry yourself. And what puts a smile on my face is when I have parents come up to me and tell me they use that situation to help teach their kid, you know, what life is about, basically. And I remember after my first fight with Tyron Woodley, I was banged up. I looked like a raccoon, man. Both eyes were black, swollen, had a huge gash across my face. And I wasn't going to come into work because I didn't want my kids to see me like that, right? I didn't want to scare them. But my brother was with Chris Wyman and his sister. You know, they were hanging out with family, so he wasn't able to take care of my classes. So I don't know if it was my mom. Maybe I'd mentioned it to one of my students that I didn't really want to come in. I didn't want them to see my faces. But when I came in that day, the majority of the kids have drawn black eyes on their faces, you know? So it was like, bro, it almost brought me to tears. So this is cool. You know, they care about you. And that's awesome, man. I love it.
That's cool. That's amazing. That's amazing. You know, one last thing, because I don't want to hold you up too much.
No
You know,
worries,
I
man.
was
No worries.
talking to Izzy a few weeks ago, and he said something very similar to what you said, where we were talking back and forth. You know, why do you do this? What's the motivation? You're in there risking your life. And he said, you know, there's just something about beating up these people who swear they're the baddest. And that's such a I don't know. I mean, I guess for someone like me who doesn't do what you guys do, it's hard to understand a motivation like that in a way. Like what's the origin of that with you? Because I know, like, for Izzy, he was bullied a lot as a kid. Like,
So
were
was
you getting
GSP.
picked on? Gee, that's crazy to think that he was getting picked
He
on.
was being bullied. And there's a cool story with that, you know, that GSP had said not too long ago. He was bullied, man. He got beat up by this one kid in school years down the road. Saw this kid homeless, man, homeless on the side of the road, came up to GSP, asked for some cash, and he said it was that kid that used to bully him, right? And what the cool saying, this is what's so cool about the martial arts. And I don't know if, you know, if it, I think martial arts had a lot to do with the decision that GSP made at the time, but he gave everything that GSP had in his wallet. And he asked this kid, he's like, what are you doing, man? You know, I think the kid understood who GSP was at the time, and he was going to, you know, he felt kind of embarrassed. And GSP just said, man, get your life together, man. What's going on? I used to want to be like you. You know, used to pick on me, but everybody liked you. You were the popular kid. What happened? And he said, you know, a year or so went by, and his dad called GSP and said, hey, man, remember that kid, blah, 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 came by just to thank you because whatever you said to him that day changed his life. Where this one kid who you don't know what's going on in these kids' lives, maybe he was getting abused, man. I don't know back home, but he was taking it out on GSP, right? But he switched it up. GSP had every right to bully this guy or not to help him out, right? But he switched it around and gave him everything he had in his wallet. One of the coolest stories I've heard from GSP. But for me, I kind of see how it would be weird that someday, or at, you know, some point in someone's life, they're sitting behind the desk and they be like, you know what, I want to be a fighter, quit their job, and next thing you know, they're fighting. Like that's weird to me, right? Like, why one day halfway through your life you want to be a fighter? Like, what drove you to that? But for somebody like me, and I think Izzy, like you said, Izzy was picked on. But for me, I grew up in it, in the thick of it. My dad fought back in the 70s and 80s. My older sister fought before me. So it was kind of like in our family, you kind of have to fight at least once. Up to you if you want to fight after that. But there's so much to learn when you're in that freaking fight, man, you learn about yourself, like I was saying, right? The nervousness, where most people, they don't have the courage to go out there and do it when you're scared. You know, I'm put in that situation on a regular basis. And even when I got close to 80 something fights, and I'm still hoping an asteroid comes down to blow the place up. When I'm walking out, like people don't say it, but yeah, I'm freaking scared, man. This dude's out there to do bodily harm to you. You don't know what's going to happen on national television. But that drives you, man. That to be able to go out there and step in that octagon, even when you're scared, that's courage, bro. That's courage. And what you learn in yourself when you're in the octagon is just something else, right? You learn a lot about yourself, and you learn a lot about the person that you're fighting. It's almost, and I told somebody that not too long ago. It's kind of an intimate thing with you when you're out there fighting somebody, something that you're sharing with them that you're not going to share with anybody else, right? Right? It's such a rare thing to beat the crap out of somebody. They're trying to beat the crap out of you, and you learn something about each other. Like the guys that you punch in the face and they just grin at you and keep on coming. Like, there's no giving up with this guy. Like, that's the kind of guy I want to have my back, right? But then you got these guys, you hit them once or twice, and then they're looking around like, how am I going? I'm looking for a way out now. Like, you learn about their spirit, you know. It's wild, but I grew up in it, so that's kind of like my thing. You know, my dad said, you're gonna fight one time, and if you like it, keep going. If not, no worries, man. I love you anyway, but you don't know what it feels like.
How do you control that fear? And then when you're actually in there, how does it not devolve into, a slugfest or something like that? I guess that's just training, conditioning, repetition. I mean,
Yes.
but even that fear in the beginning and all those other feelings you probably feel, like, how do you temper that when you're in there?
That also comes with experience. But that said, there you have to start somewhere, right? You got to start. Just doing it one time is a feat in its own. Like, I think that it should be mandatory for everybody in the US to have at least one fight, to go through a training camp, to know what it feels like to be put in uncomfortable situations, to go out there and fight when you're scared, and you're going out there and you're doing it anyway. You got people who, like in Israel, like it's mandatory, or Korea, it's mandatory for everybody to join the military. And I think there's something in that. There's a lot of learning experience about life when you're put, because they're getting put in uncomfortable situations too, right? Um, I think it should be mandatory that everybody has a fight, because it, you know it, it's something that's very difficult to explain. But the feelings that you get, it does take experience to know how to deal with that, right? It wasn't up until my 10th fight where I kind of learned what my body can do, where my mindset is, before I go out there. Like, I've trained myself to sleep. I can sleep before I go in the back. 5 fights before I'm supposed to go up, I'm in the back sleeping. It helps with my nerves. I've seen guys that can't go to sleep. They pace back and forth. They're shadowboxing, they're training, but they're burning energy. I've seen guys do that. They pace back and forth. When it's time for them to go out there, they're already tired, because they've burned that energy in the back, that nervous energy. For me, I sleep, man. It's like a point where I'm awake, but I'm not awake. But my body's relaxed. That nerves aren't there. And my dad wakes me up about 2 fights before it's time for me to fight. Wakes me up. We shake it out a little bit. Of course, the nerves come back, but it's not as great. It's like I don't give my body time to get that nervous anymore. But also, my dad always tells me something before I walk out that always calms me down. He says, listen, man, you put in the work. You did everything that you could. I've watched you. You put everything that you could into this training camp to prepare yourself for this fight. Whatever happens out there, your students are going to love you. Your friends and family are still going to love you. So just go out there and have some fun. And it always calms me down. You know what? No matter what, I'm going to have people back home that they're going to still have my back, right? So now I can go out there and give it all I got. And that walkout, of course, walking out to Tenacious D, Wonderboy always puts a smile on my face. It doesn't fire you up, but it puts a smile on my face. And then as soon as that door closes, it's almost slow motion. I look up, I look over. I know that fight wouldn't start until that gate's closed. And I see that guy put in that bolt. And I look at my opponent and it's go time. It's like, I'm supposed to be here. You know, all that hard work, like, this is my home. This is where I live. This is my space. And you're in my space. And I'm taking it from you. And I almost put myself in this mindset, like, this guy's right here is trying to take food off of my table. He's trying to take money away from me so I can't take care of my family, you know? And you almost have to put yourself in that mindset to get yourself there, you know? And, you know, that's the kind of mindset that after that, once I get there, I don't remember anything else. I have to go back and watch the fight to know what I did. I remember little things here and there, but like my last fight, I went back and watched it. I had forgotten that my opponent spit his mouthpiece out and I actually let him pick it up and put me back up against the cage to fight. You know, I actually let him get me back there. It's the training. It's thinking is too slow. If you're thinking about this punch coming at you, you've already been hit. So that's where the repetition over and over and over. I've been doing this for 20, 25, 26 years, something like that. And my dad still has me doing the very first technique you learn in martial arts, a jab. He has me do that over and over and over again. So that way it's when you need it, it's there, right? You're not thinking about it. It's just there. You got it.
You know, Izzy talked about that too. It's so strange. I'm starting to see these patterns with you guys, with fighters. Maybe it's just the paradigm roster. I don't know. But you guys just like you zone out. You know, when he was talking about his fight with Costa, he's like, I didn't even know at one. I think it was like when he waved him on like that or something. He said he watched it afterwards. He's like, I don't even remember that. And yeah, that's a common thing I'm hearing where you guys don't seem to remember what the hell happens in there.
And it's almost
But
like you said, you're going out there, your body's preparing to go out there and die, right? Even though you know, like, it's a competition, you know. And one thing that really respect and what really I remember about Izzy is that one fight when he had with Kevin Gastelum, when he says, you know, I'm ready to die. That's how you feel when you're out there, right? You're prepared to do that. And I think that's the closest thing that you're going to get to a real life or death battle, you know, if you've never been in that situation to begin with, and how you handle that, right? And I think that's another cool thing why I think everybody should do that. Yeah, you know, you're probably not going to die out there, but it's the closest thing that you're going to get. You feel like you're going to die. What are you going to do about it? Right? What are you going to do about it? Now you got to show me what you're going to do about it. That's the coolest thing, because I've been put in. That's how I think as well. Like, dude, it's either me or him. One of us is going to leave this octagon, and that's going through your head. Like, you're ready to die, man. And it's cool to see him actually say that out there.
yeah, that was a surreal moment. Just you could see him like mouth it. I
Yeah.
remember watching that. And you could see it on your faces too, especially during those like championship rounds when things really start to get hairy. You know, there's always that one person who's always like, well, you know what, I'll just die then. And
Yeah,
that's usually
exactly. Hey, I'm gonna grit my teeth and go, baby. Yeah,
yeah,
that's so
crazy.
cool. It's cool. A lot of the, you know, he's champ, man, and those are the mindset those guys have. And I try and be as observant as possible and watch these guys. Like Izzy, I don't watch MMA. I don't watch fights. Only the guys that I think have an impact or a similarity in my life is the guys I like to watch, like Chris Weidman, GSP, Conor McGregor, his karate style, I love it. And Izzy, his love for anime, his the mindset that you have. It's like when you're watching him fight and seeing him say that, it's like watching, you know, Deku in My Hero Academia preparing to die. You know, it's like I draw inspiration from, you know, I've been watching anime since I was a kid, you know, watching Dragon Ball Z, you know, Naruto, things like that. And you can relate to that because, you know, they're pushing themselves as hard as they can to get to that next level, and you're doing the same thing in here. But yeah, it's an anime. My dad calls it a cartoon. I'm like, Dad, whoa, it's not a cartoon, bro. Get it right. It's anime. There's a
Yeah.
difference, pal. There's a difference.
You don't want to say
And
that too
I draw
loud in the
inspiration.
wrong.
I know. I want to poke him in the eye. Stop it. He's like, you're 37-year-old watching cartoons. I'm like, it's not cartoons, man. It's anime. Get out of here. Leave.
Yeah. Oh man, it has been so good talking to you. Really, it's been such a treat. Is there anything else that I haven't asked you that you'd want to share? Get off your chest. Anything on your mind?
You know what? This has been actually really fun. I do a lot of interviews and stuff, but I can sit here and talk to you every day. We definitely got to make this happen again if we can.
Absolutely.
It's been really cool. Your questions and everything have been awesome, bro. And I can sit here and talk. It's funny because you got guys. You do this a lot, and it's just the same questions over and over again. I don't know. I don't know. You think about. It's almost like you really want to know the spirituality of the martial arts, right? Because there is that, and very rarely do people want to know about that aspect or that area. I think that's super cool, man. So I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it seems like most people they're focused on the superficial, the top layer, and
Yes.
the people of the moment or the drama of the moment. And I guess that's all good and fine, but I feel like there's other forces at work that are much deeper that don't get talked about enough, especially with guys like you who fight for a living. Because I feel like you guys are, modern day gladiators, and that's I don't know if people even know what gladiators are anymore because
I
people,
know, right?
and that's kind of sad. But it's heavy, And speaking of, as someone who used to get picked on, when I was younger, you guys are heroes, in a way too for those people who either are getting picked on or who used to. There's a lot of other things at work below the surface that need to be highlighted more.
Well, I appreciate you, man. You just made my day, man. Calling me a hero. Let's go. But man, yeah, man, I appreciate you, brother.